What's going on, guys? It's Amon-Rellik the Godslayer. We're back in another Warframe stream. Hey, today we're gonna be talking about some intermediate tips and things you can implement into your gameplay to push you forward. So in the beginning, in the first stream, we talked about just general how you would set up a Warframe and how you would set up weaponry, right? You know, getting the mods on, you know, knowing what the different polarities are, and the key to basically making your Warframes and weapons stronger using the Forma system. Now we're going to get into the more nitty-gritty of how to exponentially tweak out power for like weaponry. Be it that while many Warframes can survive damn near mostly on their abilities, weaponry can still be considered a very important piece to the puzzle when it comes to success in Warframe. So we're gonna first take we're gonna need a weapon to take and just use as our guinea pig weapon. We'll take we'll use something like Sabara's Prime. We'll use Sabara's Prime. Alright. This weapon right here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take everything off this weapon. Alright, we're gonna take everything off this weapon. As a matter of fact, yeah, we're gonna take everything off the weapon, and we're gonna basically roll with this as our blueprint for talking about the different statuses in the game and how they and how the damage works in this game. Every weapon will have an impact, slash, and puncture status. Of course, we talked a little bit about what these do in the previous stream. You will know which one the weapon is actually built around by, of course, seeing which one of these statuses has the most on it. You'll see some that'll say like impact may have 19, puncture may have 50, and then slash might have like 22. So that means you know that it's a puncture weapon more than anything else. Right? You know, you basically understand that. However, the way damage tends to work is you will have base damage modifiers, basically raising the base damage of the weapon, you know, period, and that is usually done through mods like let's take a look at, where is it at? Let's go down here. Serration. See, just a flat damage boost of 135%. If we put that on, alright, we get a damage boost, flat damage boost, 100, you know, to 206 now, right? Then you have multiplicative damage. Now, the way you want to do this is this. You don't want to have stacking of the same types of damage. So, for instance, if we've got, let me see if we can find another weapon, another ability that gives us the same thing. I think, well, maybe we can find one here. Oh. Yeah, so you see here, heavy caliber gives me 100 and 50% damage. So let's say we put on heavy caliber. So now I got 222 in total damage. But then I come over here and I put on serration, which is gonna give me another 105, right? It's additive. These two are just added together. But let's say instead I try to pull more damage out of multi-shot. If you remember, we talked about multi-shot. It basically multiplies the amount of bullets that come out of your gun with each shot. So let's say we instead put multi-shot there. Now we have a higher number than that 300 or something. We have a 418 because it's multiplying the damage. So now that we have a multi-shot and we have a damage, a base damage, and we have a multi-shot added. Now we don't want to stack any more multi-shot or damage anymore because it's just going to be additive. We instead want to get more multiplicatives. So we would then go into this weapon is a 3-round burst weapon, I believe. And because it's 3-round burst and it's got a 30% crit chance on its own, what we're gonna try to do here is we're gonna try to gear this weapon for a high crit. Right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for Vital Sense, which is gonna give us 120 crit damage. That's gonna boost our crit up to 4.4. And then we're gonna try to get that crit chance up. So now we're gonna look for things that's gonna give us crit chance. Let's take a look around here. Let's see what we got. Status chance. That's multi-shot. We don't need that. We are looking for a crit chance. Crit damage. Okay, looks like we don't have anything right now that can boost that crit chance. All right, so we'll we'll leave that there, right? That crit damage we're gonna leave that right there. And now what we'll do is we're gonna look for a way to multiply the damage again, but this time through element. Because this weapon isn't going to be necessarily a weapon that does like spread AoE damage or anything like that. We're gonna instead look for a means of just like tearing down the enemy's where is it at? Yeah. Now with the added toxin, we went from 400 something to now 6. And then what we'll do is we'll add at that point, now that we've got an element, so we've got a multi-shot, we've got our base damage, we got our multi-shot, we have some crit damage, and now we have an actual element in there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna try to add on something specific, like a Bane of Corpus does damage to Corpus or does damage to Corrupted. You can use something like that, or we can try and buff up one of these here. Like for instance, we can do Shred from Shred real quick. Not Shred, I'm sorry. Sawtooth Clip, which will up our slash damage and put us to almost 800. Then we have something like we can take something like Stabilizer. We could do something like Stabilizer if you wanted to do. We could put that there. I haven't really been giving this weapon much love. I really should have, but I haven't been giving this weapon too much love. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Crit chance. Point strike. Alright. So now we have a 75% crit chance. And as you can see, we've got ourselves to almost 800. Now, this weapon can exponentially grow as we put more on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually form up this weapon. And we're going to take this weapon out for a spin. But before we do, let's go over here. Go ahead and grab that. There we go. Let me see if I can former this weapon. We don't have any formers yet. We don't have any formers yet, so we won't be able to former the weapon like we want to yet. But doing it this way allows us to exponentially grow the weapon's power through multiplicative stats. Basically multiplying the stats instead of doing additive stats where we put two of the same types of damage on there, where it's like just flat damage. And flat damage, we don't want to do that. We want to do flat damage, separate damage, separate damage, separate damage, you know, separate damage, separate damage. Everything's separate damage. And so it all multiplies with each other. Now, later on, like for instance, you'll be able to mod your weapons to a point to where you won't even need to use a flat damage, and you'll be able to just instead, like for instance, since I have 3 configs, I can literally just plop on I can make one build around Corpus, and I can just get rid of this and make it a build around Corpus, or I could make the other one a build around Corrupted. You know what I'm saying? make one around Grenier, things of that nature. You know, if I have a Grenier mod, I can make one around Grenier, things like that. Another thing is when it comes to these corrupted ones, they can do something called double dip. Basically, what that means is the amount. Let's say, for instance, this does a 1.5, right, for Corpus. My toxin proc, right, will damage over time. If I have this on, what it'll do is it will multiply the amount of damage this does and add it to the toxin proc. So the first toxin proc will be maybe 132, but then the subsequent toxin procs will take this damage into effect on top of this. We'll multiply it with it, and it'll do the combined damage of this and this Bane of Corpus for the rest of the ticks, which will allow me to basically double dip into my damage. So that's, again, another reason why you do want to use corrupted mods if you're going to be fighting a focused group. Now, of course, like for instance with corrupted, this works best, of course, with doing corrupted missions in the void and stuff like that, which is a great way, you know, of a exponential extending your damage out in those like void style missions. And again, if you notice where it says damage added damage is doubled for big crits, which are orange, and triple for super crits, which are red. And of course, you see here values over 100% have a chance to become big crits, and over 200 have a chance to become a super crit, which is red. Now, you might be thinking, how in the hell do you get those kind of values? You can push crit chance higher than this 75% based on, like, for instance, if you got a ribbon mod, or if you've got like other mods that give you crit chance on top of the crits that you're already doing. Again, this right here will give you a chance to enhance crit hits from your primary weapon. So if you don't have anything else, and we've got a free slot here that can actually hold some things here, we can throw that on, and boom, we've gone from 796 to 1084, to 1048. So usually having just 2 multi-shots on your weapon at any point, you don't really want to go past, saying 2 multi-shot mods, to be quite honest. But like for instance, we can take it back off and we're at 796, right? We can put this on and take this off and see that we're below. So we do want to keep both of them on. Now, at this point, we've got a weapon that can put out a good bit of multi-shot, a steady base damage, decent crit damage output at 4.4. We have an element with an added status chance, so now our status chance is at 40%. A good crit chance. Our crit chance at base is now 75%. And we are going to get some good slash procs. That's going to allow us to ignore health on top of, it'll allow us to ignore their shields and do straight health damage, just like Toxin will as well. And taking that and slapping a, let's say for instance, a corrupted on there, we'll be able to double dip in both our toxin procs and our slash procs. We'll be able to double dip using that extra damage to corrupted. And that's how you'll see your damage explode in terms of like how it'll go from nothing to like ridiculous amounts of damage. And this applies to all weaponry. So this will apply to your main, of course, your secondary host, your secondary weapon, and your your melee. Now for Warframes, again, it's a little more straightforward. But we want to play around with, let's play around with a Warframe that might take a little bit more time to learn. Like in the previous video, you saw me playing with Nova, and I was doing a certain combo where I would use my wormhole. I would point it straight up in the air, right? I would cast the wormhole straight up in the air. Then I would jump into it. That would put me way up. It would warp me way up into the air. Then I would shoot the antimatter bomb straight down, and I would just keep. Then I would shoot it as I'm falling. And what would happen is the antimatter bomb would fall into the portal and be reset back up top where I was, and I would fall through the portal and be reset back up top behind the actual matter bomb, which will then allow me to continue to shoot the bomb. And basically what it does is it makes it to where the portal will delay the bomb hitting the ground, which will give me more time to shoot it. So we're both going in like this rotating thing where the bomb goes down, it gets shot back up, I go down, I get shot back up, and as we're both falling together, I'm shooting the bomb. It gets reset back up into the air when it falls through the portal. I get reset back into the air behind the bomb, and then I'm shooting the bomb again, and I'm just gathering more and more damage until finally the bomb does hit the ground and explodes for massive damage. That is a technique that I use playing with her, and that's some of the more advanced things you can do once you start realizing how certain Warframes work. Like, I basically use this wormhole as an ability to make her nuke, which is the antimatter drop, more powerful. I put these together to make it more powerful. And of course you saw how I was using this in Molecular Prime to basically give me a AoE crowd control and defense, while having a 2-part special here for making a decent nuke whenever I needed just a quick nuke. So you can do cool things once you start actually paying attention to exactly what these abilities do. And we can play with another frame that actually dives more into that. Like for instance, a frame not many people tend to like. Our boy Limbo. Limbo is a frame that, in all honesty, you gotta do some thinking if you want to play this class, if you want to play this Warframe at a level that isn't what's what I'm looking for, at a level in which you won't find yourself being locked out. Because like when you get to a certain point in the game, you're gonna start going up against these shielded Eximus guys that like nullify your powers and stuff like that. And so if we want to go into like a little bit more of a chess game, if you will, when you're playing, Limbo is a very good way to like express a little bit more brain power. So let's wipe Limbo clean, and we're not gonna form him at all, but we're just gonna use him to kind of like talk about how we're gonna do this. So we've got what abilities? We've got Banish. Now Limbo has a passive ability that allows him, when he does his rolls, he doesn't just roll, but he can basically go into a whole different plane of existence called the Rift. Now what the Rift does is it basically makes him invulnerable. He can't be hit while he's in that form. But he can only be hit by mobs who are also in the Rift. Like Banish creates Rift energy that basically allows him to like put enemies in the Rift. Now once the enemy's in the Rift, they can't harm people who are in the regular material real plane. So instead, you would have to roll and shift yourself into the rift plane in order to hurt these enemies. It's basically a juggling act of putting these enemies in the shadow realm, basically, and putting yourself in the shadow realm to kill them. So you're basically taking enemies and putting them in and out of the shadow realm. Now, the second ability is stasis. Now, what stasis does is stasis allows you to freeze enemies in place if they're in the shadow realm. If they're in the shadow realm, you can freeze them like this. All right? So you can banish 5 or 6 enemies, then immediately hit stasis on them and freeze them, because they're in the shadow realm, right? Cool. Now we have Rift Surge. Rift Surge surges nearby rift-bound enemies. So enemies that are in the rift, that are in the shadow realm, you can put a surge on them, and then when you kill them, what'll happen is it'll spread that surge to nearby enemies who aren't a part of the rift. Now, surged enemies that are surged up, when they leave the rift, they basically perform a radial banish around themselves, which will put the enemies around them in a rift. So you can basically start spreading the rift. You can start spreading the shadow realm to enemies while never having to use banish. Well, without having to use Cataclysm, the ultimate move that he has, where he puts a big dome up, and this big dome basically, anything that walks inside is now inside of a rift. He basically makes a big dome of the shadow realm that enemies will walk into. Now, this move is not liked by many players because this move it affects players, because other players can be put into the shadow realm. Like, you can use this move, banish, and you can use it on a player and put them in the shadow realm. So the way you could do this is banish a certain set of enemies, right? Hit them with Rift Surge. Then you can hard cast banish again to explode, and then what'll happen is the people who are surged will explode out and put more people into banish. And you can do this while being in the shadow realm yourself. So now you're basically invulnerable, and the enemies are constantly stasised, while at the same time you're just adding more and more enemies by exploding the surge and spreading the banish. By exploding the banish, by keeping them surged, you're exploding this banish, which is spreading it with the surge. And then of course you're basically spreading stasis, because the enemies are stasis as soon as they become banished. So you're basically using that as a means to lock down without really having to cast Cataclysm and disrupt your party. I mean, you can cast Cataclysm on like a decent like a choke point or something like that, and then just move about, putting all of these other enemies in the rift. And mind you, while you're in the rift, you're basically invulnerable. It stops all bullets from the enemies in the air. So like, if an enemy is shooting at you and they're stasis, all of the bullets that will be shot at you will remain frozen in air. So it's basically God mode. And this frame is one of the most misunderstood frames because of this. Because not many people understand how Limbo's power works. Because the actual Shadow Realm, the Rift, has its own mechanic. And he's the only Warframe that has this. He's the only Warframe that has an entire plane of existence to himself that has a mechanic that you have to work around. But the reason why I want to use him in this in this particular example is because of that. Is because I want to show, like, there are certain ways that there are certain complexities to how you build your Warframe. So because you understand basically how damage works in terms of multiplicative damage, and of course you'll understand like how to combine, you know, different elements for your weapons to make those combined elements like viral, corrosive. Like viral is, I believe, heat and toxin, and corrosive is electricity and toxin. And like these being like the most famous combined elements. But for Warframes, you can kind of play around with the same type of mixing. Like, okay, for instance, I'm not really concerned with Cataclysm in terms of using it as a lockdown. Its base duration, now I'm at level 30, of course, I'm at rank 30, but its base duration at rank 30 is 30 seconds. That's a long time to lock something down, relatively speaking. But instead, we want to be able to put a duration on the banish and on the status, on the stasis. That's what we want to do. That's what we really want to do, right? And we want to. So we're gonna be looking for a duration and a range build. So first things first. Since we know what his ability does, you might think, okay, that means we'll go for you know, our corrosive projection. Nah, we're not gonna do that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go for energy siphon. Why? Because we want to fortify the fact that he already gives energy when he's in his plane. We want to get more energy. So we're gonna slap that on, right? All right. Now we're not gonna worry about these right now, but we got energy. All right, we got energy. Next, we want to play around with any our Auxilius mod. Now, again, we're looking for range and duration. All right, we're going for range and duration around this piece. Now, what we want to do is we want to look at just what can we do to supplement that range and duration without having to. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna have to do it. So what we're gonna have to slide on over here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, we're gonna grab Cunning Drill, give ourselves a little bit of range. All right. Now, let's start trying to fill up some of these polarized slots. Right? We're gonna start off with the V slots. What we need to work on, we need duration, right? Boom. So we're gonna look for our prime continuity. That's gonna give us 50. Right? Yeah, we're gonna look for our prime continuity, and we're gonna slap it on. So now we have base duration. Now enemies get stuck in there for 37 seconds, right? And that rip surge will keep them in there for about 27 seconds, right? And that stasis will last for 22 seconds. We're liking this, right? We're liking this. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're then gonna turn around and we're gonna place what do we want? We want more range. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head over to the Narrow Mind, because we got something for the range. All right, we got something for range. And we could go for overextend. Okay, we could come over here and we could grab our overextend mod, right? Be it that we're just looking at trying to boost range and we're not really caring about how strong our ability is, because the strength is going to be in how long it lasts and how wide we can spread it, right? Cool, but we don't want to make the strength of our abilities go so low that we can't viably kill with our abilities after a certain point. And again, the amount of range we can pull off, all right, we don't need to overextend that, no pun intended there. So instead we're gonna go with the good old trusted stretch, right? So now our banish is 56 meters. Our radius on our surge is 40 meters, right? At that point, we're pretty good. Like, we're good. We're good. We don't need to go any really further than that. Like look at that. That's a 56 meter banish. 56 meters is actually pretty far. So is the 40 meter here. That's pretty far. Now we can worry about putting together getting that strength up. So now what we'll do is we'll head over here to our V, right? And we're gonna do 2 V's here. We're gonna do 2 V's. We're gonna do energy conversion. You're gonna see this in a lot of my builds. Again, getting a health orb will allow our next cast to have more strength, right? And the idea is we're gonna go for intensify. Now what we're doing is we're buffing the damage of our banish, which we don't necessarily need, but we've got room here. Now for our Bizarri, you might be wondering, what are we doing for our Bizarri, right? Why are we using Bizarri here? Watch what happens when we throw this on. The radius goes down to 28 meters. But we get almost a full minute. And here 33 seconds. But we want to keep that stasis as high as possible. And we only lose 10 seconds. We only lose 10 seconds on that, right? But at least we can keep a large radius together. So you might think this is gonna come out well, but just having an extra 10 seconds on that, again, you're gonna be resetting this a lot anyway. So there's no need for that. And I'm gonna tell you now why there's no need for that. One, we've got energy coming back from energy siphon. But we're also going to have energy coming back from using. We're not going to be using flow because we're going to already get energy generation. We're going to be using streamline to make it even easier to cast. Now look, banish is free. Banish is completely free, which of course has always been completely free. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna basically make it to where we're gonna get this 35 back almost instantly with this, mixed in with us staying in the Shadow Realm. So now these are basically free. And so now we're basically capable of being able to go put some enemies into the Banished Realm, go into the Banished Realm ourselves, Rift Surge them, push them out of the Banished Realm, Rift Surge them, hit them with stasis, push them out of the Banished Realm, which will spread it, Rift Surge them, push them out, Rift Surge them, push them out, and then once this goes down, we'll hit this again, Rift Surge them, push them out, and we'll just keep doing that, spreading it around, and basically keeping a whole room locked down in stasis and unable to be killed, well, unable to do anything, and just be dying, basically, right? Mind you, we're not touching anything around Cataclysm, but at the same time, we have not in any way hindered Cataclysm. Cataclysm has only been able to benefit from one, our streamline, our duration, of course, and of course our radius and our damage intensifying buffs, right? We haven't hurt our biggest move in any way, even though we're not necessarily building into it. We haven't hurt it in any way. Now, in certain cases, you would want to do something that would, like, you know, drop a stat in order to get a better stat, but where we're sitting, we're nice, we're good. All right. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna now head into trying to fill this slot. All right, we're gonna try to fill this slot. Now we've got many things we can do. Health conversion, picking up health horse gives us more armor, or you know, we've got different things like rapid resilience, you know, or we got reflex guard if you're going a more melee build. We've got steel fiber, give us more armor if you want to do it that way. Undying will allows us to bleed out slower. We can give ourselves a bigger health pool, you know, or we can go you know, prime vigor for more shield capacity and health. What else we can do here? We can do diamond skin for radiation resistance. We can do Arga Accord, which is what you would normally want to do. Is you want to slap Arga Accord on. That's going to give us more shields, but it's also going to stop that. It's also going to allow us, every time we spend energy, which we're going to be doing, because we're going to be spamming these back, you know, we're going to be basically spamming these in a rotation, and that's going to basically allow us to convert some of that energy to shields. So that's great. Now we have the ability to come over here and we can play around with Cataclysm, which duration increases by 1 second for each enemy killed, or we can go Rift Torrent. Now Rift Torrent is where this gets really, really sick. Again, Rift Torrent is a Rift Surge augment. What this thing does is Limbo deals 30% extra damage for each enemy affected by the Rift Surge while in the Rift. We're going to be staying in the Rift because when we dodge forward and we go into the Shadow Realm, we're going to stay there. So we're going to basically be invincible the entire time we're playing. Putting this on now gives us a 39% damage increase, right? A 39% damage increase for each enemy that's in there. And we're going to be spreading this shit ridiculously, right? We're going to be spreading this shit ridiculously. Now, we have one more slot left open, and we could use it for this. We could use it for this, but what we also can do is we can also head over here.
These will feed the fire.
Let me see which one of these it is. Okay, it's not them. I think it's probably gonna be him.
This is what we offer.
Okay, maybe not.
Use these to cleanse the unclean.
Ah! Okay, so that looks like it's going to be another journey into building up. Let me guess. I think he's more.
A shame to see such potential squandered.
Yep, gonna be here. So like Rift Haven, allies banished to the Rift will have 25% of their maximum health restored every second. You know, if you wanted to use that as a more base thing, but I think we'll just be able to keep what we got. I don't think we need to worry about that. All right, so let's grab one more. So now we can put one more mod here. We can fit one more good mod here. So let's see what we got. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can put on there and see what we can kind of pull out. Okay, yeah, we can just put on something like this. All right. Now for our arcane slots. Definitely want to put on this. Give us some extra duration. All right. And of course, we've built this up to hit hard. All right, we built this up to hit a little hard. And what we'll do is, and mind you, I don't even have an Exilis on this. What we'll do is we'll take this out and we'll see how we can play it, how we can play around with it. All right. All right, most people are gonna probably be like, "The hell is a limbo doing here?" I am now in the
Finish your mission to find out what's inside.
Ambulance! What have they done to her? Fix this!
Reinforcements available. Do you choose to leave now or continue fighting?
All right.
Continue to defend. You will be rewarded for your bravery. That's it. You opened the relic. Finish your mission and we'll take a look inside.
back into that disabled ambulance.
Oh yeah.
unless you can handle more of the enemy.
Orthos. Naros. I could definitely use another one of those.
That's the last of them. Objective is secure. Let's go home.
All right. So with someone like as complicated as Limbo, you can kind of see where, you know, a lot of your... You can kind of see where a lot of the twisting and turns can take place in terms of Warframe, in terms of your designing of Warframes, in terms of your building of one. Certain Warframes are just obviously built for a certain purpose. Like Frost is obviously built for, you know, defending a certain point. Frames like Mesa are obviously built for burst DPS. But then you can kind of like take certain frames, like for instance, frames like Ember, and you can turn her into more of a defensive frame using her immolation. That will give everybody, like all the different, like everybody in your party, it'll give them all a defensive boost based on how hot you allow her to become. So you can kind of gauge everybody else's defensive capabilities around your own heat gauge. So you can turn her from being just a straight up overall DPS frame to being a defensive one. Same thing with Gara. You could turn her into a like, for instance, I've turned Gara into like an energy siphon style frame where like every kill can guarantee every kill within a certain radius of a move she has. Spectral mirrors, I think it's called, something like that. Every kill within it will just randomly drop energy orbs. So basically infinity orbs, just about. Things like that. Of course, certain frames, like for instance Harrow. Frames like Harrow work very, very well in things like defense and in like survivals and like missions where, you know, the longer you're going, the more like juice you're gonna need, because Harrow can like juice the shit out of your party. He is like one of the best buffing frames in the game. Of course, we've got unkillables like Nidus, who if you play them right, you can basically keep from dying in any way. Like building around, he's actually one that I actually need to talk about. When you're starting to get frames like Nidus, Inaros, frames that don't possess any form of shields, building towards them is different than building towards normal frames, as we were showing, because now their shields are going to be their armor. So at the end of the day, you're gonna want to go high health, high armor. With this particular build, I was just going for a lot of like ability strength, just trying to see how far I could push his strength, the strength of his abilities. But your initial setup won't really look like this. Instead, you're gonna want to go differently. You're gonna want to go. If we were to start this over with Nidus, we're gonna go first and foremost. We're gonna want to make sure our where is it? We're gonna go here. We're gonna go here with that. Our excellence, our excellence. We're gonna try and look for. Oh shoot, one moment. All right, some dialysis stuff, but okay, we can get back into it. What do we want? Ability range. No, we can go two ways. We can go building stacks, which we're gonna need in order to live. With that, we'll probably need power drill. Yeah. All right. Now. Nidus has a chance for additional augmentations stacks while in the infestation. The base chance is 60 increases with power strength, and multiple stacks are possible above 100%. We do want this. All right, one moment. Okay. So we could go for this augment that gives us more. Now, Undying is our state. It basically brings us back from the brink of death. So Undying is definitely something we do want to work around. Now, even though Undying has a cooldown of 30 seconds, it does allow us to, we can generate stacks above 100%, and it allows us to get a bunch of stacks. So what we can do here is we can go there, because like with Larva Burst, we can detonate our larva, our nasty, where's it at? We can detonate our little nasty larval thing here. We can detonate it. And we can kind of do toxin damage in like an 8-meter radius, but that's for a different build. That's for more of a, if we want to do a burst DPS build, which with him, he's more based on gathering strength than just, you know, one-off shots. So first and foremost, we're going to be playing around, basically, we're going to be playing around Ravenous. So we're going to need, first and foremost, we're going to need our trusty energy, that, and then we're going to need our so now we're gonna just be, our idea is we're gonna be gaining stacks. We're gonna be gaining stacks. Now with this, we want to actually go further into using a mod that extends the reach of certain things, because I don't think we can extend the range of our Ravenous too far. See, that's 8 meters. Like Ravenous won't go past 8 meters. So we don't really, you know, need to worry about the stretch on it. Virulence, we do want to worry about how far this works. But I think 16 meters is pretty good. We don't need to really go too far in terms of the amount of distance it goes. Parasitic Link is going to be good in terms of like better, basically for more damage reduction, because I can literally put it on an enemy and keep an enemy from moving and basically transfer all my damage to that enemy. Or I can put it on an ally and boost an ally's their ability strength, things like that. So we can definitely that ability strength is going to definitely help us out on that. Let me see what we got here. So when it comes to see what our duration looks like here. We got 40 seconds. We're actually gonna go with there we go. So now, yeah. All right, so we're good. We got some decent duration. We got some decent. Okay, now we can actually play around a little bit. We can go back to over here. And what we got? We got chance to resist knockdown. 28. We don't have shields, so we can't afford to, we can't afford to put anything on that has to do with shields. Streamline will probably be our best bet. Oh yeah, that'll work out. That'll work out. So now we'll slide over here, and we're gonna try to pull out. We got 40% armor we could throw on for armored agility. Health conversion. We do want that because that's going to give us more armor. More armor is always the greatest thing in the world. And then, of course, adding more health is always a great thing to do. Now, what we could do is we could take some of this off, right, and just keep punching into health. So that's what we could do. We could, like for instance, this is gonna grant me 450 armor, but I can stack it up to 3 times. So even though you only see 525, it's gonna actually go way higher than that. But we can do things like stack things like this here. We could change that out to that, but then that doesn't really hit the spot. So now what we've got here is we've got basically, let's look in here real quick. We don't have shields, so we can't use that. That's gonna be our best bet. Just keeping that the way that is. And basically, like for so basically for frames like him, where over time he grows more powerful,
You're near efficient. They're dropping reactors. reactant is working on your relic. Find more.
It's like a Geiger counter. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to...
What have they done to her? Fix this.
The ambulance is down. Hack into its systems.
The relic has been cracked open. Finish your mission to find out what's inside.
Alright. There we go. You. Spread all that infection out. Spread all that infection out. Yeah. Let's get them stats.
Reinforcements available. Do you choose to leave now or continue fighting?
Oh boy! Oh yeah! Wiz Prime, baby! Hell yeah! So as you can see with Nidus, the longer things go, the more his power grows. Cause like those stacks, if I die, those stacks will basically bring me back to life.
Keep fighting. Another opportunity to extract will appear soon. That's it. You opened the relic. Finish your mission and we'll take a look inside.
All right. And so basically, anybody that comes in here that walks into these things. Oh shoot.
Extraction is ready, unless you can handle more of the enemy.
Damn, I didn't even know they had. Do I have History Prime already? I don't think I do. Alright, these guys going out.
We're done here. The extraction team will take over from here. Time to evacuate.
That was a good run, boys. Good run. And so, like, for instance, like, again, Warframes like Nidus, you wanna focus more on the two things they do have, health and of course armor. Outside of that, you can kind of then tweak and play around with what kind of Nidus do you want to be. Do you want to be one that pumps out a lot of healing with their Ravenous, or do you want to be more of a DPS Nidus where you can explode your little tentacle things repeatedly over and over again and create bursts of damage that way? Again, just toy around with the actual just toy around with your actual Warframes, and you'll be able to actually come up with some nice cool fandangles. Now, one more thing, and we're gonna go to the dojo for this to end this off. And this is, now that you've understood how to, bring damage up on your weapons and armor, now that you, in your weapons, now that you learned how to think outside the box with your Warframe in terms of how you're gonna build it, now we gotta figure out we gotta kind of like learn the next thing about the intermediate parts of this, and that is damage reduction using parkour. Parkour in this game has a purpose. Other than, of course, whatever your run button is, you're going to be given a crouch button. And whatever that run button is, if you tap it, you're going to be given a roll, right? If you press back and tap that button, You know, you'll roll back, you can roll to the side, and if you're moving forward and you press the crouch button, you'll slide. You can then press the roll button to roll while still sliding. Or you can press back in the roll button to backflip and basically reset your distance. Again, you can double jump, and if you aim down sights, you'll do a slow glide down to the ground. If you aim down sights while jumping next to something, you'll latch onto it, and you can turn left and right. But you cannot do it forever. You will come down. If you duck and then hit the jump button, you do what they call a bullet jump. And you can do this in any direction you're facing. So even if you're facing this way, you can bullet jump back this way, or you can bullet jump straight up for a lot of height. This will allow you to do things like bullet jump front and be able to shoot from high distances. You also have the ability to jump, and holding the jump button, you can, up against a wall, you can just keep bouncing off the wall. You can also do this left and right. And you can do this as long as you've got surface to do it on. The key is to learn how to mix all of those different movements in with your gunplay, with your sword play, because while you're in the middle of carpool, when you're in the middle of, like, when you're airborne and you're moving like this, when you're doing that, the enemy is hard-coded in the game for the enemies to have less accuracy hitting you. So don't just rely on the defensive stats you have. Also rely on your parkour a lot. Get used to shooting in midair. Get used to shooting while sliding. Get used to your roll. Get used to wall running. And of course, don't forget, you can always just hide behind walls. You know, normal, you know, this is still in essence a shooter at the end of the day. So know that you can hide behind walls and use that as well to your advantage. And get used to how it all feels. Get used to that fast gameplay. And again, that alongside your defensive stats will keep you alive for the most part in this game. There's advanced techniques like shield gating or and things of that nature. And of course, your frames will give you certain types of defensive abilities depending on which frames you're using. Just again, play around with it. Don't let the parkour scare you. You know, get used to it. Play around in a dojo, or play around in the open world, or play around in whatever area you can. If you're in missions, play around with it. Get used to the constant moving and constant switching of directions, and get used to that. And again, stay mobile. No matter what, stay mobile. Don't just stay in one place. You know, in most frames, you don't want to stay in one place. Now, some frames can take damage can take damage for a certain amount of time, but even then, those frames are going to be forced to move and find advantageous spots in areas in which they can get their health back and things of that nature. So, again, the idea is ABM, baby. ABM, always be moving. That is the creed of Warframes. Always be moving. and you can always be moving. The game gives you an amazing amount of free movement, so always be moving. Thanks guys for watching. I'm gonna end it here. I'm Amon-Rellik the God Slayer. I'm Amon-Rellik Gaming. This has been the immediate tips, the intermediate tips here, things to get you, past just the initial playing around with your frames and weapons and getting used to things. This is where you can kind of get into that mode where you're actually going into the harder content and things of that nature. Not the hardest, but a little bit of the harder content, things that kind of push you a little bit. And the advanced tutorial I'll come up with Lex, I'll actually need to be a little bit more precise in that one, and that will be the one where, okay, now we're going to talk about some of the more obscure ways to push yourself beyond the normal limits of Warframes and what they're capable of, and also get into more in-depth things like dealing with your operator and what the operator is capable of doing and how it fits into all of the combat you'll be doing with your Warframe. So thanks guys for watching. I'm Amon-Rellik the God Slayer. I'm Amon-Rellik Gaming. We out of here.